Well, we're back to kick off another week on the program. Maybe we should tell you what's coming up today so you'll stick around for a little bit. Have some fun, have some great conversation, and I'm going to guarantee lots of information coming your way on today's program. It's allergy season, and nutritionist Julia Karantjas is here with what we can do to help ourselves in some natural ways so we're not in a constant stuffy, itchy, and sneezy state or popping over-the-counter medications. And here with tips to secure our mobile devices, those things that we have our whole lives on, is Tech Expert Michael Babcock in a little while. Nothing to sneeze at on this show.
This is Kelly and Company.
Kelly MacDonald here. Thank you for being with us. And I would like to start by mentioning something that by now probably most of you know. Pope Francis has left us at 7:30 a.m. in the morning on our Easter Monday. Pope Francis, being a very forward-thinking pope, so many believe, and he addressed the public Sunday, on Easter Sunday, traditionally, of course, done. Sundays traditionally done. And really publicly, that was the last time he was seen. A loss to all of us. Pope Francis dead at the age of 88. His successor, they'll be meeting in May to work on that and, vote one, follow up on. I'm not 100% sure if I remember the process anymore. Nisreen Abdul-Majid joining me. Niz, thank you for being with us, and kind of a somber day.
Happy Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a somber Monday for sure. It is beautiful that you mentioned that he got to speak yesterday.
Yes.
And he had that last moment for himself, which is pretty beautiful. It's pretty memorable.
I think a lot of people here in Canada remembering his visit 3 years ago, to Canada, and his apology to our Indigenous peoples for the role played in finding our schools that we all know were just totally, our residential schools, totally unacceptable, and so many atrocities and things related to. And he came and during his tour made apologies. And again, what can you say? Things happen, different time, different era. All he can do is say sorry, for what extent that is, a sorry that has to be given, and recognition being the key to that apology.
Yeah, may he rest in peace.
Absolutely. Folks, do us a favor. Check out our podcast from your podcast platform of choice. While you're in there, give us a rating and review if you would. And also, keep in mind our YouTube page. Oh, boy, some great content over there that you can enjoy, take in. And would you also subscribe to the YouTube page so when you pop on, you can go right and see what we've done, what we've updated with. That's our YouTube page. Subscribe and give us a rating and review if you would, in any capacity on our podcast, and give it a follow as well. Kelly MacDonald here with Nisreen Abdul-Majid.
Well, Kelly, with any luck, the Easter Bunny brought us all kinds of yummy chocolate this past weekend for people that might be thinking that they want to love a furry rabbit rather than a chocolate one. There might be questions about keeping rabbits as pets. Do rabbits make good pets? Are they difficult to look after? What kind of needs do they have? Dr. Danielle Jongkind is here with the answers to your bunny questions. Danielle, are rabbits primarily cage pets?
They do have cages, but, they definitely need more exercise than a cage can give them. So, a cage is really too small for them to live in all of the time. Rabbits that don't get enough exercise, they're likely to be overweight. They might have low bone density, which predisposes them to fractures, and they can develop behavioral problems. They can also get foot infections if they're sitting in damp or dirty bedding all the time. So, some bunnies will roam around the house just like a dog or a cat would, and some have exercise pens that they spend time in, either indoors or outdoors when they aren't in their cage. So, you kind of really want to think of a cage for a bunny as it's more like a bedroom or a home base. It isn't really supposed to be their whole world.
And I'd imagine you have to really consider having enough space, like you say, so they can get around that little bit in there. They may demand more space than even an equivalent pet of size, in size. What are some of the good things that one would put down having a bunny as your pet?
Well, of course, like you always have to think about, how cute they are. I mean, if there was ever a pet cuter than a bunny, I mean, they're hard to find, right? Like they're pretty darn
They're
cute.
so
Um,
adorable.
Oh my goodness, they're so cute. And, they're quiet, which is nice, especially for people that, live in multi, residential buildings or something, they're kind of a nice quiet pet. Another nice thing about bunnies is, they live longer on average than a lot of the other small mammals. Like, so, your bunny, you can expect to live for 7 to 10 years on average. Some of them can obviously live a lot longer than that. They can bond with people and be affectionate, and they have lots of personality and sometimes they're playful. They also differ from other cage pets in that, they're kind of larger and chunkier than something like a hamster or a rat. And while they can bite, they aren't generally known as an aggressive pet. As long as you treat
Mhm.
them gently and don't surprise or threaten them, you really aren't likely to get anything much worse than an accidental nip. I mean, I've had both hamsters and rabbits and rats in as pets in the years past, and I know my hamsters were way worse for biting hard than the bunnies
Would you say that your rabbit was the favorite out of the three, though?
Well, the last time I had a rabbit, actually, I was a teenager,
Mm.
and he was a really great little pet. But more recently, we had guinea pigs. My children had guinea pigs, and I would say I liked both of them that equally, the rabbits and the guinea pigs. They were
So
they were a lot of fun.
I remember
Mhm.
you coming on the program telling us about the space that the guinea pigs needed for getting around, getting that exercise. And maybe this can't be quantified because, as you said, you had the bunny rabbit as a teenager. Would that, in your circumstance now, would you do you think you guys would have designed something of that nature for the bunny rabbit to travel around? If you want to just highlight what I'm talking about, the space that the guinea pigs had to run around. If I recall correctly.
Yeah, our guinea pigs actually lived in a multi-level guinea pig palace, which was a home-built apparatus that my son and my husband put together, and
Love that.
out of this sort of modular block system with a ramp going between the different levels. But so they had a lot of space to run, for guinea pigs. Um, but with a bunny, I mean, honestly, if I was going to get a bunny, I would definitely want, a larger cage, at least as big as the guinea pig one. And, probably, some space, a bunny proofed place for the bunny to run around in, that they would have a lot bigger space to exercise than just what a cage would
Mm.
allow.
Yeah, because
Well,
it's hard.
Kelly, I don't.
You can't take them
Yeah,
out for a walk. Sorry, Niz, go ahead.
I was gonna say you don't know this about me, but I used to have a pet bunny, and he was so small when I got him. I used to put him in mugs and take pictures of him. It was so cute. Um, but the
Nowadays, they call
amount,
that torture.
yeah, he had so much energy. I loved it. But the amount of Cocoa Puffs that were dropped every second of the day all over the house was
Oh,
unbelievable.
so that's how you rewarded him for putting him in cups and hey, look at him now, and taking all those
Yeah.
pictures and trying to get this will go viral. I think that
Hmm.
that's the fun thing. I mean, it's interesting to me, Danielle, when you talk about the size and when I mention things like, well, it's a little hard to take them out and feel safe with them, whether it's in the backyard. Can't take them
Hmm.
necessarily. And you'll correct me, I think, Danielle, because I think you can take them on a leash and walk a rabbit kind of that way and keep them close enough so they're not eating all the grass in the neighborhood and getting sick.
Well, like there are definitely ways that you can take your bunny outside. I mean, some people build purpose-built enclosures, kind of like a bunny hutch, or something. Some people use something called an X pen, which is like a temporary pop-up,
Oh,
fence.
yeah.
And then, I've seen people use harnesses like they have for cats and small dogs on their bunnies.
Mhm.
And, as long as they can't escape from the harness, and let them out, to walk around with them while they go sit outside and stuff, So, I mean, there are ways of doing it. But, as we'll find out later in the conversation, there are things to be a little bit careful about
Yeah,
when you take
for
them
sure.
out.
For sure. Should we get into those mindful things to keep in mind, the good things
Yeah.
that might surprise us?
Sure. So, you were mentioning your rabbit's Cocoa Puffs, Nisreen. Rabbits can actually be litter trained, believe it or not, by providing them with a litter box and keeping them confined to a small area until they learn to use it. So, bunnies, they tend to like to use the same place for bathroom duty. So, if you put their litter box in that place, put a bit of hay on the litter and some of their feces in it, then that sometimes helps to encourage them to start to use it. Um,
And
Another thing
Danielle,
can,
I do have to
yeah,
admit, that did go by me. I actually was thinking Cocoa Puffs as opposed to what
no,
do I know them as? Raisins and stuff like that. When I understand when
Raisins.
someone says that, I get,
Yeah.
oh, you're talking about the mess, the fecal matter. Yeah, Cocoa Puffs did go by me. I freely admit that. You got me on that one, Nisreen.
They look
Okay, Danielle.
exactly like Cocoa Puffs. That's why.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. A blind moment.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. No, that's for sure. And
Okay.
I wondered if you'd got that. So now the
No.
mystery is solved. Yeah. Okay.
Danielle's used to me enough now to know that clown didn't get that. Look at him faking it, thinking he did. Go, good act, Kel. No, for real. No acting involved here.
Nope. Nope. Well, another thing, to know, getting back on topic, about bunnies is that they like to chew things like electrical cords
Mm,
and things.
yeah.
So, any space you leave them in has to be bunny proofed, right?
Mhm.
You also have to be careful how you handle them. Rabbits have extremely powerful back legs and they have very delicate bones in their spine. So you need to support those back legs when you pick them up. You don't want them dangling down because if they're dangling down and the rabbit kicks suddenly, they can actually fracture the bones in their spine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, people don't always know that. So
Oh,
you really
no.
have to make sure that their hind legs are supported when you pick them up. And the last thing, of course, to remember, and this goes back to when we take our bunnies outside, the last thing to consider is that they're naturally a prey species, meaning that every predator out there in nature is looking to make a meal out of them. And that means you have to be careful about protecting them from other animals like dogs, raccoons, cats, and even from large predatory birds like hawks. It's really especially important if you keep your bunny in a hutch or let them hop around in an exercise pen outside. So you need to make sure they're completely secure in there from predators or you don't leave them alone so you can defend them, you
Yeah.
know?
Wow. Wow. I couldn't even imagine it. Just going back to the cables, anything particular that people should get? How much should you wrap them? How much should you hide them? Is there anything that people who can use as a deterrent that they won't go and nibble on it because, ew, this tastes terrible? Anything like that? Or is it just a keep them as far away, keep them wrapped up?
Yeah, make sure they don't have access to them. You can sort of fence off things that, are that you don't want bunnies hopping behind furniture to chew on cables, or, you can certainly unplug things and move them up out of the bunny's reach, that sort of thing. I'm not aware of any products that make things taste bad so bunnies won't chew on them. If there are things like that out there in the pet store, I haven't seen them.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
any animal, like that, you really they are pretty determined chewers. I mean, rabbits in the wild spend their whole time eating grass and other sticky, chewy things, right? So they really aren't easily deterred from chewing. So you really want to make sure they just don't have access to that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I always had a problem with the cables. I think that was the biggest thing. Um,
Yeah, I
couldn't
can't see
figure
you
out how-
unplugging everything and like every time
Yeah,
we're gonna
it's
go out,
such a hassle.
plug all
Such
this
a
stuff.
hassle.
Yeah.
And it's pretty hard to kind of bunny proof everything. But what
And
else
this is
can we
why we
learn?
see the value of the X pen, right? The
Yeah.
exercise pens. Those
Mhm.
little pop-up pens you can put your bunny in and go, wow, there's nothing in here for you to get into beyond what I give you.
Yeah. Mm. And
So
what
we
else
can talk.
do we have?
Sure. So we can talk a little bit about rabbit stuff and housing needs. I mentioned before, the cage should be considered more like a bedroom. It should be tall enough that the rabbit can stand up on its hind legs without touching the top, large enough to hold the litter box in a space for the rabbit to rest in. Obviously, the cage needs to be chew proof or you're going to have an escape artist. So, they
Mm-hmm.
usually are made of metal. The floor should be solid, not made of slats or wire, and should be covered with some soft, dry bedding. You also need to locate it in a place where the temperature isn't too hot. Rabbits actually tolerate cold much better than heat, and they like the temperature in the range of 15 to 21 degrees Celsius. You really got to worry if you've got extremely hot and humid environmental conditions. That
Mm.
can give a bunny heat stroke, so you want to avoid that. Bunnies also like a hide box, that could be an open roofed box full of hay that they like to go in and sit in, or even something with like a roof and an entrance hole. You can give them stuff they can chew on for their hide box. So, you could make a box out of plain cardboard, untreated straw, or wicker. I know I've seen cubbies made of woven grass for small mammals in the pet store before. So, something like that would be really great for a bunny.
Mm.
Um, it's also hugely important to make sure that your bunny gets lots of time and space to exercise. And we talked a bit about this already, using the X pens or harnesses or bunny proofing a space. And they also like toys, so for things they can do on, especially things they can chew on and they can kind of roll and move around. So some
Mhm.
ideas for that are dry, untreated wood sticks, straw, grass, or wicker baskets that are untreated with any chemicals or insecticides. You don't want anything on like that on them. Toilet paper rolls, cardboard boxes, even piles of shredded papers, and wooden toys made for birds. Birds like to chew on stuff too. So these are all sort of fun ideas for bunnies to have something to do.
Yeah. Something to play with, something to
Yeah.
eat on. How about nutrition overall?
Feeding your rabbit properly is huge for keeping them healthy. So they actually produce two types of feces, the Cocoa Puffs that Nisreen was talking about, and another type called cecotropes. And these cecotropes are rich in bacteria that rabbits absolutely need for health. So they actually eat these as soon as they pass them. And kind of fascinating evolutionary adaptation to eating foods of poor nutritional value like grass. So, basically the grass and leaves that rabbits eat, they feed gut bacteria, which in turn make these amino acids, fatty acids, and vitamins. The rabbits then expel pellets of these bacteria, re-eat and digest them as part of their diet. And so it's because of that reason, you want the largest part of your rabbit's diet should be grass hay.
Mhm.
Alfalfa hay is not as appropriate unless you have an Angora rabbit, in which case you should talk to your veterinarian about advice on their diet because they're a little bit different. But the hay should be dry, clean, never damp, moldy, or dusty. Um, Ideally, rabbits should also be given some green foods, about a cup of packed greens for every 2 pounds of body weight, I think. The darker the green in the leaves, the better. So, kale, dandelion, cabbage, carrot tops, beet tops, those are all good things.
Mm.
Some foods have, you can only give in limited amounts, like parsley and mustard greens. Um, and you want to introduce those greens slowly to allow the bacteria to adjust to them in their gut. And, some people also like to feed like little fruits like berries or apples, and giving those once in a while as a treat is fine, but they really shouldn't form a major part of the diet. And you definitely want to avoid stuff like grains, seeds, bread, peas. Anything like that is really a no-no. That'll upset their gut bacteria for sure.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank
Gosh, I'm
you.
glad we're not a breakfast show.
Great
Speaking of the
tips.
Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You're a
Sorry to ruin your
nutritionist?
Cocoa
Yep.
Puffs.
God.
I didn't do it. That was all Nazreen.
That was me. That was me. It's my fault. Thank you so much, Danielle.
You are so welcome.
Yeah.
Dr. Danielle Jongkind gave us things to think about when you're considering having pet rabbits. She's back with us in 2 weeks for Ask a Vet.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Danielle to stick around for a couple moments because I want to share something. We get talking about Canada, and I've got something interesting I'd love to get yourself, Nisreen, and Julia Karantjas joining us as well, our nutritionist, who we will get into a tremendous allergy conversation with you. Welcome, Julia.
Hello, thank you.
So I'd like you guys to check out this list that I had sent to me. This is a strange and surprising list of Canada's most fascinating exports. Stuff as we go into this Canada Pride situation that we're in right now and probably expected to be in for a while. It's interesting to bring certain things to our attention. So the first thing I've got, did you know that most of the world's French fries come from New Brunswick? New Brunswick-based McCain's Foods makes about 1/3 of the frozen French fries produced in the world. Wow. I did not know this. I mean, we always think of them as the potato capital. Go ahead, Julia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't know this either, but I think when you think of Prince Edward Island, which is also in that direction, you do think potatoes.
Yeah.
Like that
Yeah,
was
I'd
pretty
agree.
that was pretty shocking, like for me. Did you know that Carling Place, and I know how much all three of you will know this one, so I'm sorry to even bring it up because this is a fact that you ladies will all know all about. Carlton Place makes the world's best baseball bats. In 2012, more than 100 Major League Baseball players decided to swing these Canadian-made maple bats, better known as the Sam bat.
Us.
I know. See this? Sam Holman, the founder of the original Maple Bat Corporation, invented the bat by choosing maple wood, a harder wood than the traditionally used ash. So, man, we're furnishing all the bats for the Americans, pastime, baseball. So I love this, of course, as a baseball fan. Third item.
Is this? I was just going to ask: Is this the same as the new bats that are taking the baseball world by storm that I read on the news?
No, but that is a Canadian company as well, though. I believe. They're in Quebec.
There you go. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think they're in Quebec too. The torpedo bats. And
I can't remember what they're called.
Big ones. They're custom made, but they're also a Canadian company, I believe, out of Quebec doing that. Canada's also the largest exporter of green lentils in the world, about 1.5 million metric tons annually, with 95% of it coming from Saskatchewan. Did you know this, Julia?
I didn't. My mind is blown, but I'm also filled with so much pride.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I just love it. I mean, of course, it makes you think about exporting, and when we talk about canola and some of the other areas where we're going to have some problems right now with the tariff discussions and all that going on. But I had no idea of lentils, and I just don't think of lentils necessarily. I think of them as more something returning to Canada, that we've kind of grown a fondness due to eating foods that we have made more popular from other countries.
I agree. I agree. And I am embarrassed to say, but I also don't think of Saskatchewan. I don't really. I don't know what they're
Maybe
known
it's
for.
because
now I feel bad about that.
I'm in the same boat, Julia. Yeah, I agree.
Well, maybe it's because my family are farmers, right? So, and they used to farm livestock like cattle, and they still do a few beef cattle, but they also grow crops, for sale. So, soybeans and canola and things like that. And, but I've never heard of lentils as a cash crop. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And, given that Saskatchewan is out there in the prairies and they do a lot of, oats and wheat and, that sort of thing, I'm not surprised, but that's interesting. Green lentils, I had no idea.
Yeah, I think I get into the trap of thinking mainly wheat. So, of course, you associate it with always the bread and things like that. So really fantastic. If you pick up a pack of Halls, you'll be getting another taste of Canada since they're made in Scarborough, Ontario.
That's
the plant
shocking.
at Bertrand produced more than 6 billion pieces of medicine for the U.S. just last year. Now, if you were to take these and line them up side by side, they would circle the Earth at the equator approximately 3.4 times.
Wow.
Surprising,
Shout out to Rams.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hometown.
Wow. Holy cow.
No, but that's crazy.
Yeah, a lot of people take in medicine in Scarborough. Canada produces currency for more countries than you could imagine. The Royal Winnipeg Mint produces coins for 60 different countries. Currently, the mint can produce over 20 million coins a day. Absolutely, ladies, something I had no clue of.
Oh, wow.
That's mind-blowing. Yeah. It's surprising about the different types of currency and also the amount that they can produce.
Yeah. And for other places, like I feel silly because, well, why not? Like not every country has the ability to be able to mint its own, or the circumstances. There's deals made and I think so much of this coming out now due to the circumstances really does make you stop and say, oh, like holy oblivious that I am.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it never occurred to me that a country wouldn't mint its own coins.
Me too.
No, me neither. I almost would have assumed it was a prerequisite. Like you have to make your money there.
I wonder how you ship it. Like safely?
I wonder how you ship it. Yeah. A lot of security.
Like you think there'd be robbed? Like
Toronto.
Well, that's it exactly, right? Wow, Nazreen, get a script together. We'll make a movie called the Currency Heist. Like, it could be currencies from all over. We'll get on this.
Let me take some notes.
We're always talking food on the show. Did you know that Hamilton makes the world's Swedish fish? More than 5 billion of the colorful little candies are produced in Hamilton, Ontario every year. That's all of the Swedish fish consumed in North America, which also is where all the Maynard's candies for Canada are produced. And key brands for the U.S. are made there as well, including Sour Patch Kids. So again,
I didn't expect it to be in Hamilton.
Especially because they're called Swedish, like Swedish bears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That too. I wasn't a fan of them, to be honest, but that's surprising.
I was going to say, poor Julia is going, oh, why are we talking about this?
Let's jump in.
I haven't really, Hamilton, they're pretty industrial, so it makes sense that they're producing something.
Candy.
They're probably producing they're very industrial looking, like very industrial things are all like built there. So that does track. I wouldn't have thought candy though.
Well, I always wait, Julia, too, as much as we make you talk nutrition, for those moments of confessions, because I think we all paint you that way, that like poor JJ last time, and we paint you that way, like as if this woman never has candy or Easter chocolate and all that stuff. And as soon as you mention it, okay, we better get on with that because we're talking nutrition.
Like I feel guilty talking about junk food and my obsession for junk food in front of you,
Oh,
no, it's fine. I don't love candy, but it's not because it's candy. I just don't love it gets stuck in my teeth, but I do eat chips and chocolate. Those would be my weaknesses.
Hey, they're the best together.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're eating enough candy, it's time to play it off, right? And when I say that, did you know the world's best cymbals come from New Brunswick? Where do the cymbals used by Rush, Keith Harris of the Black Eyed Peas, the Philadelphia Orchestra, and marching bands around the world? The small village of Meduktik, and I apologize if I'm not quite saying it right. I think I am. Population is 300, located along the St. John River in southern New Brunswick. Sabian cymbals are sold in 120 countries around the world. Something so cool. And never would you have known that. Kelowna. Did you know that Kelowna makes most of the world's water slides? Canada's Whitewater Industries Ltd. is the largest water parks attraction company in the world. Pharmashake makes thousands of water slides each year. Sorry, I'll get into that last one in a moment. Unbelievable water slides out in BC.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I love water slides.
Do you?
Yeah.
Me too.
Like,
I do. I'm a child when it comes to the water park.
I don't think people grow out. I don't think you're ever too old for water slides.
I'm glad.
No.
Agreed.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. You'd be like me. I'm a little too big for most of them, so I'm scared to death to go in them. Look at that guy. He just flew out the top. Isn't that interesting? Didn't know that could happen. That's what's always been my fear of it. If I hit one of those curves inside, shoom, he's gone. Did you know also out in BC, they make tons of submarines? And I don't mean the sandwiches. Atlantis Submarines of British Columbia actually owns more submarines than any other country. But these ones are all used for tourism. The Canadian company initiated the world's first tourist submarine in the Cayman Islands back in 1986. More than 10 million people have actually experienced underwater adventures thanks to them in their 48 and 64 passenger submarines in the Canadian Pacific, in the Pacific, in the Caribbean and Pacific. The subs they operate in Barbados, Aruba, St. Martin, Cozumel, and Guam were all made in Canada. And you did not know. Thank you, ladies.
I did not know. Thank you.
That's really cool.
Have you ever cool?
Any of you ever been in a sub like that? No?
No, you'd never catch me in one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary.
I can't do it.
It does scare me.
I was just going to say, Julia, that I think that's the big thing for a lot of people. It's like, I don't care if you go 5 feet underwater and as soon as it closes off, forget it.
Forget it.
Yeah.
No.
Danielle, are you just claustrophobic? Is that why?
I'm not actually claustrophobic. I can be in small spaces, but the thought of all that water pressure over top of me.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember reading that when that Titan sub imploded on the bottom of the ocean when they were down there at the Titanic, and I remember thinking to myself, oh, there's just no way. There's no way I ever would have gone down in something like that, down that deep. And like, if anything ever happened, and that's just me. I know some people are like, wow, it's the adventure of a lifetime and you learn so much and all that. But, everyone has their comfort with risk-taking behavior. And for me, I don't know if I could do a sub. It just wouldn't be me.
No, I could not.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting too, because we know more about space and more people have gone into space than the depth, like down to that far down where the Titanic than we have in our oceans, right? It's really
wild.
Odd. But it's the availability and the harsh nature there. Not that space isn't its own harsh nature. Danielle, thank you for sticking around.
Yeah, have a great day, guys.
Danielle Jongkind will be back on the show with us next week. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Nisreen puts a lot of time and effort into it, folks. We are found at Kelly & Co. AMI.
Lots of people walking around congested that sound like they are sick, but are they? It's allergy season and migraine season too. Let's chat about what we can do to help ourselves in natural, nutritional ways so we aren't in a constant stuffy, itchy, and sneezy state. Julia, I have to say that all weekend I felt congested, I felt stuffy.
Yeah.
Why do we appear sick when we are just experiencing a seasonal allergy?
Right, when we're not. Isn't that so annoying? I feel so bad for people that have really bad allergies. Well, our poor immune systems, everybody's immune system is different. And some people's immune system reacts to these allergens, different substances, could be a plethora of things in our environment that causes an immune response. And what happens is your body releases a chemical called histamine in response to your immune system reacting to this allergen, let's say, for example, bee pollen. And the point of the histamine is it plays a role in creating inflammation, which helps temporarily heal something like at the immediate time of injury. So your body's perceiving that there's either a foreign invader or there's an injury to the body, and the immune system responds to try to heal it, but you release this histamine, and then you get these reactions, these itchy nose, itchy eyes, watery eyes, itchy skin, that make you appear like you've got a mild cold or maybe a serious cold, and it's really uncomfortable. So it's this culprit histamine, which is getting released by your immune system because your immune system thinks that something's wrong because you are allergic to something. And so you you just feel terrible, depending on how serious. And of course, it could be anything, right? I mean, it could be environmental, and it depends on where you live, where you go.
Yeah.
So it's so uncomfortable.
So what do you recommend to take if it just gets so bad?
Right. So there's a couple of things you can do. So this is, you do want to support your immune system because your immune system is getting activated. More so than somebody who's not allergic to something, because their immune system's not getting activated as much as yours is if you've got this allergy. So, things like vitamin C and garlic, we know are very supportive of the immune system. So foods that, eat garlic, and then foods that contain vitamin C, such as strawberries, obviously oranges would be in there. Mangoes are great for vitamin C. So these are things that you can be eating on a daily basis. And then the other thing that you can do is you can eat or take, or both, depending on how serious your allergies are, quercetin. It starts with a Q, the letter Q, QU. And quercetin is a natural antihistamine. So you can buy it as a supplement. If you have really serious allergies, that might be something to consider, because as a supplement, you get a more therapeutic dose as opposed to trying to just eat a lot of it. Of course, if you ate it every single day and you had mild allergies, you might feel relief just from that. But quercetin is a nutrient that we call a bioflavonoid, and they are found in food. So you can eat them. So foods that contain quercetin, for example, to be a little uncommon, you've got capers. So capers are I would say in the taste of the olive family, but they're very small. You can sprinkle them on salads. You could maybe mash them on toast or into some sort of dip, or I'm going to use a fancy word. I'm going to say tapenade. Not that I've ever made one, but I've eaten one. Apples with the skin. We always talk about eating whole foods and how good the skin is for fiber and all of these other things. The skin of the apple will have the quercetin in it. Kale, dillweed, these are foods. So, increase those leafy vegetables, maybe blend them in a smoothie. Those things will have quercetin in them too. And so you can increase these foods that have this natural antihistamine as well as the vitamin C to support the immune system. And then, knowing that there's supplements to take, like just that straight quercetin pill, if you really, really need it.
I love capers. You have them.
Is that Kelly?
I love capers. If you have them like with smoked salmon, like a Benny, a smoked salmon with caper. Oh my good heavens! But I could eat those just like that. Yeah, they're really good. And when you mentioned dill, because again, obviously, this is stuff that you're taking, garlic, this kind of diet. Because you have the allergies, you're taking this stuff regularly or including it in your day, as opposed to taking, the supplement or including. But these are things that you're naturally trying to do. Work them in.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So you can eat it in the off season where it's not high allergy, and then maybe you might need some extra help when it's peak allergy season, right? Because allergies can be, bee pollen, like pollen in general is a big allergen, and that's happening in the spring, and then you get those breezes and it's blowing everywhere. You can make some lifestyle changes. Unfortunately, shutting the window, if you've got a lot of allergies, you might want to shut the windows when it's really breezy outside to avoid the allergens getting in your home. When you come in, if you are prone to allergies, maybe change your clothes right away and wash the clothes that you were wearing outside so that you don't have any of the like dander or pollen or tree bark, grass, those sort of things on your person, so that you're not aggravating your allergies while you're inside your home. So changing your clothes, unfortunately, shutting your windows, but again, maybe just when it's breezy. Those are things you can do to lessen that environmental impact on the inside of your home. And then eating the food, supporting the immune system, and focusing on quercetin as a natural antihistamine. And of course, there's lots of over-the-counter medications if you're really stuck. I don't want people to think that they have to go natural and suffer. Nobody needs to be suffering. But on a daily basis, these are things that you can do to maybe lessen the impact. And if they're mild, maybe you get rid of them altogether. But you can pair that lifestyle and that nutrition with other measures that you're doing, because it is really uncomfortable for people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been finding with the window open, I get that maybe beginning of the season kind of thing. It bothers me, a little soreness, headachy in the face where I feel like, oh my gosh, what did I do? But we're talking, and I understand people with extreme allergies, you may have to take other steps and that kind of thing. But obviously doing the garlic, doing the strawberries and so on to bring your vitamin C up, keep it up, drinking the fluids, those kinds of things that help you with your system year round, even in the wintertime if you're up here where we are.
Yeah. There's a lot of, I mean, I've heard from practitioners who do deal with a lot of patients with allergies or clients with allergies, is they start recommending the quercetin a few weeks before allergy season, so that you're getting a good dose of that in your body weeks before that peak of allergy season hits. So that, I know it is interesting. It does require planning ahead. But I think if allergies is something you suffer with, you are probably thinking about it. It's probably on your mind because it's coming, because you know how uncomfortable it can be.
Yep. Just like you look for the relief of that first frost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome, Julia.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julia.
Yeah.
Great tips. Nutritionist Julia Karantjas was here with natural ways to take care of ourselves during peak allergy season. She'll be back next Monday, so stay tuned for more nutritional tips.
We're looking for members of the disability community to join our AMI research panel. Our research panel guides us with every decision that we make here at AMI, including programming, media consumption, and accessibility. Participants are compensated for all long-form studies. For more information or how to join, go to ami.ca/panel. We'd absolutely love to have you on board. Folks, you can email our program if you have questions, comments on things we talk about. We always love to hear from you. kellyco@ami.ca. You can always call us and leave us a message. Robert just did that not too long ago. 1-866-509-4545. Always like to hear from you and get a chance to talk to you. Our mobile devices, our phones, tablets, and watches are always on us and hold the keys to our personal lives. We want to secure them, but we're not always sure what the best practices might be to do so. Tech expert Michael Babcock is here to help us out as usual. Michael, welcome back.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, Nazreen. Hope both of you guys are doing well on this Monday morning.
You too.
At the moment, until you get into kind of making us say, oh, I don't do that. Oh, I should probably do that. Oh, that makes sense. Do you want to start with the basics, sir? Should we have a passcode on our phone?
We should, and definitely should make sure we do that. And don't be like Kelly and have 1, 2, 3, 4 as its lock pad.
1, 2. I think about it. I think about how easy can I make it, but I think I'm probably the guy who'd be guilty now of working on. Oh, that's a great convention, but if I ever had to change the naming convention, I'd be done for.
Yeah. I know some people who use 2580 as their passcode, and they say, "Well, that's better than 1, 2, 3, 4." I'm like, "No, it's not."
A little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Marginal. Yeah, maybe marginally better.
I would rather you do like an L 1478 or something like that. That kind of mixes it up a little bit, but you want to kind of use 6-digit passcodes now. I know that the iPhone and Android are pushing 6-digit passcodes. Someone who has not been heard on the show in a while, but good friend of mine, Demasi, is one of those who uses an alphanumeric passcode, and that's just too much thinking for me if I want to unlock my phone. I'll come up with a complicated passcode, but you could do that, and that would help you with increasing the security of your device. Right. And, we all use Face ID or Touch ID if possible. Apple, can you please put Touch ID in the lock button? That would be kind of cool. Just saying. You have it on the iPad, not the phones. Oh. But the problem with that is... well, I mean, if you're in places where you may not feel safe, you might want to lock your phone down. And there are ways to lock your Android and your iPhone down. So that way the Face ID or Touch ID cannot be used. So biometrics cannot be used, and you have to enter your passcode in order to unlock your phone. So that's that's definitely helpful, especially when you find yourself in a situation where your kids want to buy apps and you want to hand them your phone to play with it, but you want them to have to get you to unlock it, or other nefarious situations. So definitely keep that in mind when you're setting up that passcode. And the last thing related to lock screens, and I'll jump over and ask Kelly and Nazarene if they have anything they want to add to this as well, is you want to turn off the lock screen notification previews. That's the preview of your message that you get when your phone is locked, or the preview of your high glucose numbers from Dexcom when your phone is locked, other apps as well. So you can go on the iPhone to just tell Siri open notification settings, and then you can set your preview to be either always, so it'll always share those previews of those notifications with you when your phone is unlocked, or never show those previews of notifications. What about you, Kelly? Do you have anything to add about this?
Well, I'm laughing because I have a friend who has Dexcom, and he makes sure his notifications are silenced because he doesn't want anyone around him hearing, wow, your sugar's that high? He doesn't want that. What's that? Oh, it's just an alert. Well, what for? He doesn't want all the questions. What I do note is every so often, if you use the facial for the iPhone, at least every eighth time, ninth time, you have to actually punch in your code, which of course comes at the most inconvenient moments. But I did not know about the lockdown, and I think that is really tremendous if you are in a situation, because I do often wonder, you know, how accurate, who could pick up your phone and click, it's suddenly unlocked. So I do like that.
Yeah. And always when you restart your phone, both iPhone and Android will always make you enter your passcode.
Is there any way of changing it so you don't have to enter it other than that time every 8, 9? I'm assuming not, that there's a very good Apple reason, security reason, how come it makes you, whether it's so you don't ever forget it, or just to be sure it's not making the mistake and picking up, you know, your cousin Fred's face who picks up your phone and, I guess we do look similar.
Yeah.
I think it's for your safety to I don't think it's related to making sure that you remember the passcode, but they want to make sure that you're entering that code on a regular basis, and you're right that others aren't using your phone, or that, you know, someone's not always unlocking your phone while you're sleeping, you're not aware of it.
Okay. Liz?
I do I do enjoy having my phone set up like it only shows my sneak peek messages unless I like show my Face ID. But without it, it just says, okay, one message or whatever it may be.
Or
it actually
email or
it.
Microsoft Teams or whatever it might be.
I like how that's set up,
Except Uber has it, Uber Eats has it beat. Hey, Vogel, you this and that and that and that. We gotta. It'll tell you all about that. It'll read that out loud. So does Twitter.
And Face Unlock has become so quick nowadays that it doesn't make a difference. Like if I pick up my phone, it unlocks and I can observe my notifications. If my wife picks up my phone, it does not unlock and she can't see the notifications there. So it's kind of a good. I like how smooth it has become for sure.
Yep.
So the next thing on keeping our devices secure is being mindful of app permissions. So when you open an app for the first time, you're often inundated with several notifications. Can we send you notifications? Can we have your location? Can we get your camera access? We'd like to hear through your microphone. All of these notifications, and a lot of us, not all of us, but a lot of us are like, yes, allow. And then you're like, what did I just allow? So you want to go into your phone's settings and check what apps have access to, again, your microphone, your camera, your location, your contact details. If an app doesn't need something to do its job, then deny it or take that permission away. On the iPhone, you can go to Settings, Privacy and Security, and then get a listing of all apps that have access to different aspects of your phone and go through. Android, you want to go to Settings, Apps, and then go over to Permissions and get that information to be able to make those decisions.
Very good.
So just want to throw that out there. Keep your phone updated and backed up. We all know we should keep everything updated. Security things get fixed often, and we all know we should back our phones up. My Mac computer tells me every time I log in that I have an update. I'm a little scared to do updates because I do a lot of audio stuff with this, but I need to do the update, and that's the same with your mobile phone. Do the updates when possible. I am a glutton for punishment because I have my apps on my phone set to automatically update. I hear from several people don't do that because they might break accessibility. I'd rather my apps be updated personally. And if accessibility is broken, then we'll figure it out.
Have you had that?
I always end up.
I have had that before where an app updates and then it breaks accessibility. I can't think of any specifically, but it has happened to me. What were you saying, Nazreen?
I always end up updating my phone like the last minute when they force me to update it. But even that, I always have low storage, so I can't really update it, and then it starts to glitch until I actually update. It's such a hassle.
Yeah.
I don't like that
all
process.
those darn photos you keep on your phone.
I know. I have over. You don't even want to know, man.
Do you have that problem with audio, Michael?
Thousands.
Michael, do you have that problem? Do you have that problem with audio? Because that's what I mean. I don't save anything. I love my podcast and things like that, but I never have that issue. You know, back in the days when it was only 20 gig or something like that. Okay, but I hear this from people. Oh, the phone's full, and I have no concept of how the hell is it full.
Yeah, I have 128 gigs on my iPhone. When I was using 64 gigs, I would never fill up my phone, mainly because all of my data was stored in the cloud. Just like I did run for a while on a 256 gig MacBook Air. Now I have a 1 terabyte MacBook Pro, and guess what? I'm using almost all of the storage on there. So I think if you can be flexible, you can adapt your storage needs to what you need. But I've never used up all of the storage on a phone.
Okay. All right. Do you want to jump into passwords and reusing them?
Yes, sir. Real quick before we jump into passwords, I just want to mention that you want to avoid installing apps from third-party sources. If you're jailbreaking or rooting your device, please know what you're doing because that can get dangerous. So passwords. Stop reusing passwords. Most people use the same password with just some little tweaks. And it's the worst when your employer says, oh, we need to change your password every 60 days. You know what? Someone's just going to add an extra number to the old password that they were using in most cases. So,
but you know, a lot of the times you end up when you forget your password or quote unquote forget, and you put in the password that you really think it is, and then that's it. You just can't remember it. It's telling you it's wrong. It's telling you it's wrong. And then when you try to say forget password and you put in a new password, but it's actually the password that you were putting all along, they're like, don't use the old password that you used before. And it just gets so confusing. But I'm one of those people that add the exclamation mark at the end just to make it different, a $sign at the end to make it different, a random number. And it doesn't work that way for most of the time, but I'm guilty.
So, I don't know hardly any of my passwords because 1Password is my password manager of choice, and it creates unique passwords for each site. And I just hit the generate new password button and then fill button, and then it tells me to unlock my device with my face or my fingerprint, and then it's unlocked, filled in, and I'm good to go. So that's one way to get around it. You don't have to remember all of your passwords with 1Password or Apple's password or Google password. You just remember 1Password or keep your finger around or your face around, and you'll be able to unlock it and be able to access the password data and have it automatically fill in your data across devices. When you're looking into password managers, you want to look for something that works across devices. 1Password is my favorite one of choice. Apple works well for their password manager if you're not using an Android device. So they have the Apple passwords on Mac and on Windows and on iPhone. There's not an Apple passwords tool that you can tap into on Android. And that's what keeps me in the 1Password ecosystem, to keep all of my passwords unique and safe.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh, that's great. And that's exactly the help we need. I think about it. I'd be too scared first setting it up because I think, oh, what if I do need to know these? How do I get it? But I know we're getting to that world or in that world now, where these are the ways to go. They're just like phone numbers. We accepted, hey, just put Michael's name up there. The phone number's there. Just hit Michael or say, call Michael. What's his phone number? I haven't a clue. So it's the same kind of thing.
For sure. My wife asked me one day what...
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, my wife asked me one day what someone's number was. I'm like, I don't know. I just tell Siri to call him.
Yeah.
I know. Isn't it sad though? You
Their
kind
number
of
is
feel
red.
ashamed of not knowing people's numbers. But I always wonder if actually people use those automatic strong passwords that some apps provide for you. Because I could never. They would be like 20 characters long.
Yep. I use them every day. Every day.
The automatic ones.
Yeah. The automatic ones, because I don't have to remember them. The password manager will fill them in when I go back to that website. So I'll just say, let's use that password. And then you don't have to remember it. You just have to remember either your one password to unlock it or enter your biometrics with your face or your fingerprint.
You bet. Michael, thank you, of course. Michael joins us every 2 weeks on the show. We were talking tips on keeping our mobile devices safe. On our next show, when Nazreen and I return, the Earth Day edition, that is. Earth Day is a time to think about our planet, but also how we connect with it. Marco Pasqua joins us with a reflection nearly 10 years in the making, inspired by a powerful moment of his time at the Rick Hansen Foundation. We'll hear about the evolution of accessibility, the tech that's helping more people enjoy the outdoors, and his impressions about Earth Day being about appreciation, awareness, and action. Tomorrow, on the next Kelly & Company, Fedora's off to you.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly & Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.